Yes, we speak about Une femme respectable. We are very proud to present the world premiere. And honestly, I'm very moved because we love your work since years. We presented a film over 10 years ago of yours. And your films, I said it on stage before the world premiere, for me there is one essence of humanity which is moving me very deeply, because we present 90 international films from all over the world, and many of these films are talking about the crisis going on and very dark topics and subjects. You don't try to show a world of luck and joy, but there is a deep humanity in your work. Can you give us an impression about what is moving you really? Because this is, for me, a key word to describe the body of your work.
Before being a filmmaker, before being anything else, I'm a reader. And
do you hear, Mr. Émond? Because there is. Yeah, it's too weak, I think. We can change it easily, it's no problem. It always happens when you don't need it, and it's no problem at all. No problem at all.
Yes, perfect. Voilà, très bien. One of my favorite writers is Anton Chekhov. And I adapted one of his short stories into film a few years ago. But what I love the most about Chekhov is the deep humanity of his work, a mixture of irony and compassion. So it's certainly something I try to do in my films. Irony, I'm not too good at, but compassion, I try to. And also working with the actors. To me, being a director is an immense privilege, because I can look at faces in a way that is impossible in real life. In real life, you can't just look at an interesting face in the metro, in the subway, and try to imagine a life. It's impolite. But in cinema, especially when you're the director, you can look to your heart's content. And je pense que l'humanité, I think if you look long enough to a face, you will discover humanity, contradictions, subtlety, complexity. And this is maybe why also my films are films of few words. Silence is very important. And I prefer not to have too much dialogue, so that the physical presence of the actors, actresses, permits a kind of very human communication. So yes, and also, my films are not contemporary. This is something
in a positive way, démodé, in a positive way.
Yes, absolutely. I am a conservative, not politically.
Conservative is
yes.
meant to be bad in
yes.
our days.
But oui. Albert Camus once said, past generations wanted to change the world. Our task is to preserve it. And this is the way in which I'm conservative, which implicates a certain radicalism. Because, for instance, if we want to conserve Earth, we must be very radical economically. But to me, I'm a trained anthropologist. And to me, the diversity, I mean real diversity, not what is presented as such by contemporary ideology, but the real diversity of small cultures is important. So yes, yes, my films are not en français, on dit dans l'air du temps.
Yeah.
Not in...
Yeah.
Oui, not in the zeitgeist.
Yeah,
Okay.
the taste of the times.
Oui, c'est ça, not in the geist of the times. Voilà.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you described this very, very well. Can you, now we are building the bridge to your new film. Why did you choose this short story as a subject for this wonderful film, Une femme respectable?
Well, one summer I was going through all of Pirandello's short stories, and this one, which has a wonderful title in Italian, it's called La pena di vivere così, la douleur de vivre ainsi, the pain of living. And the main character, Mrs. Leuca, who became Mrs. Lemay, was such a moving character to me. She was full of contradiction, of culpability, of hope. To me, this is a masterful depiction of human complexity. And it's the character of Mrs. Leuca that attracted me.
The main character played by Hélène Florent,
Yes.
who was also here during the world premiere.
Yes.
Can you describe why you casted her? Because what you said in the first part of our conversation is exactly the film, her face, her eyes,
Yes.
and the silence around, and glimpsing out of the dark.
Yes. Hélène is a wonderful actress, one of the best known and best loved actresses in Quebec. She can't walk on the street without people assailing her. And she's also a very versatile actress. She can play many things, but she has also she's a very intelligent and she works very hard. And I knew that if I constrained all this energy she has, because she's a very energetic and lively woman, but if I asked her to constrain it, the result would be remarkable, because all that energy finally flows just through her body, through her attitude, through her eyes, and just her presence makes us understand the complexities of the character. To me, directing Hélène, and I've directed good Quebec actresses, really good, but directing her was like a present. She knew my work, she knew the general direction I wanted her to go, but we did not talk that much. Of course, during rehearsals, but on set, no. We would do a take, we would look at each other, and she'd say, "Une autre, Bernard?" Another one? And she knew when I didn't want another one, and she there was very little exchange for details. She had understood so well the role and what I wanted also. But she brought to the role something that is entirely hers. During rehearsals, I said to both main actors, the important thing to know about your characters is that they themselves don't know what they want. Does she want her husband back? Does she want revenge on her husband? Does she want the children? Is she still in love with her? All this and all the reverse. And for her husband, does he love her anymore, or is he just manipulating her so that the kids are going to be taken for? Wait. He himself doesn't know. They don't know what they want, and
like in life, by the way.
Pardon me?
Do we always know what we want?
Oh, wait, it's like life. In many crisis situations, we don't know what we want. And I think that gave the characters a fragility. Fragility? Is that English?
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
When we were working to get financing for the film, one of the evaluators asked me, but what is her motivation? I looked at him and I said, her motivation? One motivation? Can you say that a human being has one motivation? We have multiple and contradictory motivations that we don't even know we have. And this is what makes, and the actors responded to this wonderfully, and this is what makes their performance so human. Not much is said, but we recognize that state of confusion. We've all had it, and we all have it often.
It's very interesting because I'm coming from the theater. I was actually 15 years there as a theater director finally, before I decided to quit the job. But I worked afterwards, since nowadays, as a casting director in a third job. So since 30 years, I'm concerned with actresses and actors, and also connected, of course, to their school of method acting, that as a director, you work with them about their thoughts inside. They prepare themselves about what the character really wants when he's entering a room, but he doesn't show it, but he has an aim.
Yes.
It's the opposite what you tell about.
Yes, exactly.
So it is not as easy as it sounds to direct an actor and to tell him you don't really know what you want. It's the opposite of modern American acting.
I find this insupportable in American cinema.
Yes. It's like De Niro and Al Pacino. This is the method acting Stanislavski followers.
You really don't have any chance to ask yourself, well, what is he thinking? He's en colère. En colère.
In anger.
He's angry. He's personating anger. Impersonating anger. It's so dull. It's so without interest. Human beings are so much complex. So working with actors that, and of course I had the chance of having not only the script, but Pirandello's novella. Yes. So the actors read the novella, and they read it and reread it, and we talked about it. And they imbued themselves. Is that English? No, it is not. They integrated the complexity of the characters. And and for me it was wonderful because they made the characters. The husband is much more lovable, if I can say that, than Pirandello's character. And this is much because of what the actor brought with him. It's much more interesting to let them be what they can be.
To direct him in the opposite for what the character is meant to be for.
Yes.
It is the antagonist of her.
Yes.
And he's incorporating a male and drunken, ignorant, egocentric, narcissistic world.
Yes, but at the same time, he's lovable. he loves his children. He has humor, and it's more interesting. I think the only advantage of seeing this film, instead of reading Pirandello's novella, is that I think the character of the husband is a little bit more complex. Because in Pirandello, he's a salaud, a dog.
Yes, of course.
Oui. But, working with actors for 2-3 months in that way is fascinating. It's full of discovery.
And far from mainstream, by the way, which needs to have clear characters, good and evil. This is the main construction of mainstream.
Yes, it's not like running a motorboat on a lake. It's like going down the river in a small canoe.
Yes.
And so the wind, the waves, you don't know what's going to happen. It is so much more interesting.
Let's speak about Far From the Character, from your visual concept of the
Yes.
film. We didn't speak about it on stage, so I would be curious because light and dark
Yes.
is there are rarely some sequences not happening in the main house
Yes.
of hers, which are lighty and during the day. So what was your visual concept for the film? It's fascinating seeing her face, as I said, glimpsing out of the dark, being the center, the light in this dark.
Yes.
So
the main idea was to have a light that is as natural as possible. But we don't know what a natural light is anymore. Our houses are too lighted, but in old houses a century ago, there were really zones of light and darkness. And in a bourgeois house, the curtains are drawn. They're velvet curtains, very heavy.
yes,
And also
carpets,
and
furniture,
furniture.
wooden furniture, in dark wood.
Yes, absolutely. And this is like comment on dit écrin en anglais? Écrin. Écrin. You know, something you put a precious stone in. Anyway,
Like an étui.
ouais, un peu, mais it's like a jewel on a ring.
Okay.
This darkness envelopes the characters, and
Yes.
it makes
The frame somehow.
everything closes in on everything closes in on the actress, and she becomes really the center of attention. But the atmosphere is yes, it's very dark, but at the same time it was like that in bourgeois houses of the last century.
Okay. And you put the nature against it because you have
Yes.
wonderful
Yes.
vignettes in between of the changing nature
Yes.
during of half a year, I guess.
Half a year, yes.
Yes. Why did you include this change of times, including the nature, within a half a year?
Again, I think.
Oh, the wind, the trees.
Again, I think it's because I'm a reader, and I like chapters.
Yes, wonderful.
And also, it's so much more. For myself as a viewer, I prefer seeing an intertitle with the name of the month than
Name of?
January, February, March.
Months.
Yes, I prefer that to long digression in dialogue. Which is, yes, I came here a month ago, and to me, this type of construction is more to the point. We go to what's important, not to the mechanics of time.
Very interesting. And the sound is also interesting. Maybe you can talk about the music you included and why.
There is not much music in the film, but it has its importance. What I used most often were les nocturnes de Forêt for piano, solo piano. And to me, it's a very melancholy with music, avec des dissonances. And I think it adds something to the movie. It's very difficult. I think it's the thing in movie making that is for me the most difficult. Yeah. Do I put music? Is it too long? Because most contemporary films are drowned in music.
Yeah, of course, they paint with the music.
Absolutely.
We know.
Yes,
and they double. The mainstream is doubling the emotions of the actor. Yeah.
And there's nothing. As a viewer, your emotions are dictated more by the music than by the story or the actors. I like this kind of nakedness, but at the same time, I like the music also. So briefly, maybe 5-6 times in the films, there are excerpts with a bit of music. Chopin, wonderful Brahms at the end. And it's also because it's the music I listen to. But we had the real questionings with the editor when we included music. Is it there, or do we keep it? But the main thing is not to manipulate the viewer, the spectator.
And the house, how did you find the house? I guess it was one house, and you didn't build up in the studio. That was obvious, but...
Well, we shot the exteriors in the city of Trois-Rivières in Quebec, and there is about 300 meters of old time. A college, a museum.
19th century.
Yes, a couple of old houses, and this house I fell in love with.
Mm-hmm. It's the same from outside. You shoot from outside, and it is the house where you shot inside.
Yeah, well, no. The house was built in a studio. The inside was built in a studio. Yeah. When we approached the owner of the house to shoot, well, she didn't say no, asked us to visit. And when I entered the house,
okay,
it was 21st century, all on the outside and all modern technology in the inside. Okay. So we decided to build sets in a studio, also because you don't have to pay lodging, and there were economic reasons. We could have transformed the house, but not with our budget. So it was cheaper to do it in a studio. But Caroline Adler, the art director, is a remarkable woman. We did that with very little money. We shouldn't have been able to shoot that kind of historical movie with the budget we had. But the costume department and the art department were remarkable. And also, well, the kind of things that happened, Caroline would phone when we were preparing the film, she would phone the director of photography. Nicolas, there is a wonderful old door in my back alley. Could you pick it up for me? And so
handmade.
Yes. And so the director of photography would take his car, because Caroline doesn't have a car, pick up the old door, and we'd integrate it in the... it was all done like that. People from the art department brought old objects from their houses. So it was really a labor of love. I have such gratitude for the people who did the sets and the costumes. With nothing, and it looks so real, and we can say that the set is really like the third main character.
I thought so.
In the film.
It was the reason of my question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you shot. You had really long time, or just 30 days?
28.
That's like for a German TV movie.
But we were prepared. And the crew was behind us. The actors were wonderful, so it was possible.
The classical storyboard and so on, everything. Or you took your choice one day before shooting with your camera?
Well, a few days back with the director of photography, we just planned the shots a little bit, but no storyboard. No storyboard. But we knew what we wanted.
Yeah, and your actors, besides the kids, are all theater actors, I guess. Or they learned.
They did learn theater, yes. And to me, that changes something. Theater actors bring to the métier depth.
Absolutely.
They are often well read, which helps a lot.
Yes.
But we also had a chance to rehearse. And this is not frequent in Quebec cinema. We had 2 weeks of rehearsals. So time to, comment on dit, dégrossir, to sculpt the roles a little bit.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
I understand.
but no, the actors were great. And also another actor, le curé, comment on dit curé? Priest. I've worked with the priest for many films, and he you know, we don't have to talk anymore. He knows.
Mm-hmm. Will the film go to the theaters, to the cinemas?
Yes. It will be shown in theaters in Quebec from mid-August.
Super. Any question? Did anybody see the film already? Okay, good to know.
I don't think so.
Not yet decided. It's very, very difficult to find distributions. Yes. Not only for this film in general, it is also for films from Cannes, and so this film could also be in Cannes, but I mean films which have been recently successful and honored in Cannes are without distribution sometimes, because it's not because the distributors have no taste, it's just because they know with this film I bring 2,300 tickets, and that's not enough. So we all have to fight, and it's the special situation in Germany, also around the globe, but in France it is very difficult.
Yes, in France it's different. But my film won't...
Canada, in Quebec, it's not different?
Oh, no. No, it's like here.
It's like here? Really?
Not many art films are shown.
Really?
It's the same situation. Different from France.
Surprising me, because I thought you are such a cultural area full of spirit.
Well, I hope that would be. But we're in the United States backyard, and culturally as well. Our link with France is receding fast. Our peasant traditions, our own peasant tradition, are a thing of the past. Our identity is dwindling. We're becoming a sort of Americans who speak a sort of French. So this is... Oui, je vous écoute.
Yes, I have a question. As the title says, your film focuses on women, so would you consider your film as a feminist movie?
Yes, I think so. I think all my movies are feminist. Most of my movies are portraits of... Not most, the majority of my movies are portraits of women. I grew up in a problematic family, so to me, looking at my mother was very important for my security. So I learned to be very attentive to women. And I admire. I grew up alone with my mother, an absent father, no brothers, and I'm much more at ease with women. And I find that, maybe it's my fault, but I find that male actors are generally less generous. It seems like a paradox, but I think that male actors are often more preoccupied by their
surface.
By their surface.
A narcissistic point.
Yes, and which, anyway, good actresses, the good actresses that I worked with are not like that. They have generosity. They're giving. And this is a beauty of the métier, to receive that.
It's very interesting. You talked in a small sentence about your childhood without a father. So this story has also some connections to this.
Yes.
Because there are 3 kids.
Yes, absolutely. I also wrote a short story which is the reverse.
Yes, so there is something also very personal deep inside the story you tell with Une femme respectable.
Okay, probably I started to love Pirandello's story, not knowing why. I'm finally discovering it.
Yes. Maybe finally you could give us a short impression about, we spoke on stage about your love, my love, our love for cinema. and for the history of cinema and for the traditional way of storytelling in the cinema, and not for the digital era, which has been conquering everything now. Can you give us a short impression about I can imagine which filmmakers you mean, but about what filmmakers are very close to your heart?
Well, I grew up in
Je
Quebec.
pense Robert Bresson,
Absolument. Mais c'est curieux.
Michelangelo Antonioni.
Oui, mais I grew up in Quebec during the great period of Quebec documentary. It was the time of Pierre Perrault, of Michel Brault, and their love of reality. And I was brought up on European cinema. Renoir, Dreyer. Oui, absolument. Et c'est curieux, because I don't particularly like Bresson or Antonioni.
That's funny. That's funny. I was so sure.
No, well, the aesthetic is probably close.
Yes.
There was a homage to Bresson at the Cinémathèque Québécoise a few years back, and they included one of my films. And
so they have the same problem I have.
But certainly, Bergman, Dreyer, Rossellini. I watch mostly old movies now. I see very few modern films, but I still cry. Recently, I watched Les Communiants de Bergman, the Winter Light. I don't know what the Swedish title is. The story of a priest who has lost his faith, and he still has to say Mass. I cried. That cinema comes.
Yeah, that's the inner drama.
Yes.
The inner philosophic drama, the existential drama of the human being in general.
Yes.
Speaking with the sky, who I am and why I am here.
Exactly. And the genius of Bergman
Yes, of
directing
course.
these extraordinary actors in this way. Nobody in the cinema does scenes with two persons like him.
Yeah.
He's the absolute master.
Yeah.
And how does he do it?
Yes.
I forget the name of the director, but there was a film done about a short story by Isaac Bashevis Singer. It's called The Magician of Lublin. The story in 19th century Poland, the story of an entertainer, a magician, who wants to fly. And he doesn't know how to do it. And the whole film is he tells his impresario that he can fly, but of course he can't. And there is a wonderful scene in the film where he looks at the sky and he speaks to God. How do you do it? How do you make the flowers grow? And I feel like that with these great filmmakers. How?
Very Nordic. So
Yes.
Quebec is in the north.
Yes.
No, it's really very Nordic. It's almost Faustian. It's also a German topic, more than French, by the way.
Yes, but unfortunately, we have a foot in Florida.
Yes.
But certainly for me, the greatest filmmakers are. But I also like very much Italian cinema of the great period. But to me, this is film for which it makes sense to not read all the time.
That's a very interesting sentence.
I prefer reading to most contemporary films. But these films do what a book cannot do. Not that the films are better, but there's a way of approaching humanity that is specifically filmic. You rely on light, on camera movements, and on the presence of actors, and this a book can't give you. Unfortunately, most film adaptations c'est un lieu commun, are less good than the book. And I know my film is less good than Pirandello's novella, but it gave me the occasion to really look at an actor and an actress. And I think that maybe doing an adaptation is a sin, but I'm happy to have done it. And I won't confess.
Wonderful. Finally, a private question, because you speak also much about you as a reader. My favorite book is very old-fashioned. It's I read it 3 times. La Montagne Magique.
Ah oui.
Thomas Mann.
Oui, oui,
You
oui.
like it?
Pas vraiment. No, I have problem with Thomas Mann.
Okay.
Oui, oui.
So I'm German, sorry.
Non, mais c'est ça.
But I like Proust as well.
Oui, oui. Bah, écoutez, moi, c'est Flaubert, bien sûr.
Proust not, because.
Proust, ah oui, Proust aussi, bien sûr. Mais
But what do you not like with at Thomas Mann? We make it short.
non, mais I think maybe because I'm not German, I don't think I understand the characters and the setting properly.
Okay.
Ouais.
Interesting.
So, which happens sometimes when I read South American literature. I feel I'm beside things a little bit.
Maybe it's too intellectual and not really from life. It's a concept of life, out of the usual life. Maybe it's that.
But how is it possible to really explain why we like a book or not? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's bad literature and it gets to you, which is okay. Mm-hmm. But
what's your favorite book? Then we end. Or maybe a book you really want to mention.
Maybe Madame Bovary, which I read so many times, and often in my life, I told I've not read Don Quixote. I've not read it, and now at my old age, I'm doing it. I'm almost finished. It's so good. I recommend it.
So we close with Miguel de Cervantes. Thank you very much. And Bernard, it's a pleasure to have you in
Merci,
Munich.
Bernard.
Really.
Merci.